Sports lovers, welcome back to another episode of Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective where passion meets purpose. Match week 5 of the Vincent Soccer Premier League delivered goals, dominance, and one individual performance that took the breath away. We saw contenders respond in style, the champions wake up, and the title race taking shape. 5 matches, 16 goals, and a massive clash on the horizon next week. Let's all break it down. I'm your host today, Shabba, and I'm here with
Dubs.
and we're here to break down game week 5 of the Vincent Soccer Premier League. And we'll begin with the first game that took place on Friday night. These games were played at Brighton, which saw Layou take on BESCO Pashas. Layou defeated BESCO Pashas 4-1. Layou made a statement after being held last week. They exploded with 4 first half goals and completely overwhelmed an informed BESCO Pashas side. BESCO actually struck first when Nelson Lewis, who scored his third goal in 3 games, scored a corner that swung directly into the net in the 6th minute. But Layou responded almost immediately. Ken V. Polius equalized 4 minutes later following excellent combination played on the right-hand side with Wendell Coffey. From there on, it was all Layou. Garrett Ledgerwood struck twice in quick succession, showing sharp movement and composure before Kobe Migno sealed it just before halftime by skipping around the goalkeeper and slotting away calmly. The second half was a procession. Layou controlled the game without ever needing to fully exert themselves. A dominant response and a reminder why they're firmly in the title race. So a nice response from Layou, right?
Yeah, good response. Sure. Happy to see that they were able to get on the score sheet so many times in that game. I think that games prior they lacked that kind of cutting edge. There was always the organization. There's always great build up and so, but the goals were missing from time to time. So it was great to see that they got those goals and I'm right back into the title race.
Yeah, I guess this is just a sign of the potential that Layou is able to do at in any game versus any opponent. You know, they have the ability to score 4 first half goals even when being down one. As for BESCO, after 3 consecutive wins, back down to earth again, versus one of the title contenders. So the 2 games they've lost now are to the top 2, and they've won their other 3 games. So maybe they're showing their true level after 5 games so far.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Quality, proven in terms of what they have faced and what they could contend with. They beat 3 other teams quite impressively, holding a clean sheet. So losing to System 3 and Layou is no shame in that.
Yeah, no shame at all. No shame at all. And we must give credit to Nelson Lewis, who scored a great corner. His second long range strike of the season as well. So he's certainly in form, Mr. Nelson. But also in form is Kobe Migno and Garrett Ledgerwood, who are, taking up the goal scoring mantle for Layou and keeping them atop the table right behind System 3, that is. And we move on to System 3, speaking of, who took on Bequia United in the second fixture of Friday night, and it was an exhibition of elite attacking football and finishing. Azino Salomon delivered one of the most outrageous individual performances in the history of the Vincent Soccer Premier League or the Premier Division, SVGFF, whatever it was called, is one of the greatest individual performances in the history of the competition. 5 goals on the night, 13 goals for the season after 5 games, which is more than any other team by himself. Let me repeat that. Azino Salomon currently has 13 goals in 5 games, which is more than any other team in the Vincent Soccer Premier League. So he's clearly on his way to all the accolades that will be rightly awarded to him. He opened with a header from a corner, added a second, capitalizing on a defensive error, and completed his hat trick by beating his man and rounding the keeper with ease. After Isaiah Charles made it 4, Azino returned to score 2 more, both set up by the super sub Shemran Phillips, who recorded 3 assists in just over half an hour. Ruthless, relentless, and historic. System 3 are flying, and Azino is operating on a different level, making the league look, a bit too easy for him.
Absolutely too easy for Zeno. Really, shouldn't be in this level if we are being completely honest. He's miles above, and it's evident. Bequia, on the other hand, I expected they would have put up a greater challenge, especially how there was some blood in it from the
First division
First
finals.
Division final. So I thought that they, would have came out with, a bit more bite to the game, and I guess they probably did, and it was a bit too much, too overzealous, and System 3 took advantage of that.
Yeah, and credit to System 3 again for not taking, their opponents for granted. Despite Bequia having a slow start to the season, System 3 showed no mercy and, fully capitalized on their opportunity to run up the score, basically. We'll give Azino his praise. He's gotten his praise and he'll continue to get his praise throughout the season. But I wanted to highlight Shemron Phillips, who speedy right winger who came on in the second half and, absolutely blitzed the left hand side of Bequia's defense over and over again. And like we mentioned, he picked up 3 assists in about half an hour. So kudos to him. And I'm certainly looking forward to more from him in the upcoming games. As for Bequia, like you said, I also expected a closer contest, even though we both predicted System 3 to win comfortably. It wasn't a contest at all. It looked like a Premier Division team versus a first division team, for example. Wasn't much of a contest out there. So hopefully we see Bequia respond because they started the season well, but they've tailored off a bit in the last few games. So we'll move on to the Sunday games, which saw Jebelle take on Hope International. Jebelle defeated Hope International 3-0. And Jebelle just keep doing the basics brilliantly. They opened the scoring through an unfortunate own goal when Rishan Matthias turned home, showing Alexander's cross into his own net. Hope tried to respond, but once again they couldn't break down Jebelle's disciplined defensive unit. Now 3 straight clean sheets for the Green Machine. The game was settled in the 76th minute when Java O'Dane was played in by Jalanson Charles after great work from Jamaica Soares in the midfield. Ordine finished emphatically, then turned provider late on to set up Zinda Grant. Another composed win, Jebelle are right back in the title race. Meanwhile, Hope are sliding. So, who you want to touch on first? Jebelle, Hope?
Yeah, Hope in trouble. The only positive they really have right now is that there are 3 teams that are worse than them. They can seem to button it up where defending crosses are concerned. Can't seem to string passes together to, open opportunities for the attackers. And then, it just seems like there is no real idea of how they're going to get their goal, go about the game, and, just execute the game plan. As I said, the only positive they really have is that they're sitting above 3 teams that are worse than them. And hopefully they could turn it around in one way or the other, either by at least defending crosses better or by just, getting goals.
Yeah. So Hope, as you mentioned, seemed to be in a bit of trouble. We spoke to them before the season, and they had high expectations coming into the championship, and they have played well below what most would have expected of them. Especially considering that they have a lot of quality throughout the team, it's very surprising to see that they've now lost 3 consecutive games after starting with a win and a draw. So like you mentioned, they're being saved by the teams below them being a bit lackluster compared to them, and they'll look to turn things around, but it's certainly not looking well for Farrell's team. As to Jebelle, I continue to emphasize that despite System 3, blitzing teams every week, I really, really like Jebelle's organization and how structured and coached they are. They definitely have a style of play, right? You could see that they try to play the ball through midfield. They're very aggressive in their press, and they leave things basically up to Java Odin to be done in the attack, right? And this is his first goal he scored since his hat trick, and he was certainly relieved as when he scored, he took off his shirt and got a yellow card. So you could see that there was some relief that was lifted off of his shoulder. So shout out to Java, shout out to Jamaica as well in the midfield, who had another, typical Jamaica game, industrious with the ball and without. But also Zinda Grant, who scored the 3rd goal, was interviewed after the game by the commentator, and he mentioned that he's willing to play in any position for his team because he played in a position that was not too familiar with for him, as he usually plays in the midfield, sometimes plays in the defense as well, but he played in the attack and ended up scoring the 3rd goal. So shout out to Zinda Grant, who is, underdog type player who we wouldn't really mention on this show, but we're giving him some flowers today. So shout out to Zindagant and shout out to Jebelle. Move on to the second game from Sunday, where it saw Avenues United took on Camdonia Chelsea, and both teams played out to a 1-1 draw. Tense relegation 6-pointer ended level. Camdonia thought they had their breakthrough when Joe Mando's Slater's cross evaded everyone and found the net in the 74th minute, but Avenues responded late with Cadel Hector, son of legendary Avenues player Lamont Hector, stepping up to bury a free kick past Isaiah Baker in the 86th minute, although some would argue that the keeper could have done better. Both teams pushed for a winner but couldn't find it. 1 point each as both teams remain under serious pressure at the bottom of the table. So not much. We saw some of the game as well together, and it wasn't the greatest contest in terms of quality between both sides. A lot of ball in the air kind of thing, and both teams struggling to create clear opportunities and goal, and it was as it showed where the teams are in the table certainly isn't lying. Wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, fair result. Share of the spoils. There was really nothing to shout about. Cadel Hector, who scored the free kick, hit the bar earlier on.
Yes, with a free kick as well.
Could say that the goal was deserved later on. So credit to him. It was a really nice free kick earlier on. So there's some quality there, absolutely. But really nothing to get off the seat for. And it's a deserved result for both teams.
Yeah, I'd say there's not much more to mention aside from the fact that there were 2 red cards in the game, one for a player on the bench and one for one of Avenue's midfield players who received a second yellow. And I'd say that it was a deserved second yellow as well, looking at the replay, because he tackled the Camdonia player very recklessly and got the second yellow deservedly. So aside from that, not much else to mention from the game. Both teams take a point as they fight for survival. So the final game of the weekend saw the defending champions now Leeward Predators take on the defensively sturdy Awesome FC. Predators finding their rhythm again though. After being frustrated for long spells, Predators broke through in the 76th minute when Javan Cato finished calmly after being played through brilliantly by Dale Spring. In stoppage time, the rules was reversed as Cato assisted DL to seal the win. Back-to-back victories, a clean sheet, and growing confidence. The champions are starting to look like themselves again.
Yeah, for sure. Wasn't expecting them to come out with a comfortable 2-0 win. Awesome didn't really create that many chances to frustrate or cause a scare for the Predators defense. And then they were cut open on the counter, taken advantage of by DL Spring and Javan Cato. So it was a professional performance, I would say, from the Predators. Unlucky from Awesome. They were a very hard team to break down at the beginning of the season, especially the couple of games before this one. To let in 2 goals and not respond is not what Gavin would have liked, and hopefully they could lift their heads and come back, respond better in the next game.
Yeah, I'd say it was an impressive and business-like performance as well from the champions who are getting back on track as we'll discuss in the league table very shortly. DL again with 2 goal contributions. The Javan Cato now he's in number 9, so hopefully they've found something there in attack. Ever since we keep mentioning that Courtney Franklin left, they looked a bit blunt in attack. Hopefully the partnership with Cato and Spring flourishes more goals. As for Awesome, they've been defensively sturdy throughout the season thus far, and I'd say it was much of the same as it took until the 76th minute for the champions to find their breakthrough. So it was just a case where they were unable to break down Predators on the other end as Straw and Williams and company were left frustrated. There was a close penalty shout that on the footage that we're getting, it's obviously very difficult to tell, but it seemed fairly close. On replay, when I looked at it again today, I didn't see the Awesome players who were close by causing much of a scene. So that maybe told a tale that it maybe wasn't in the box, right? And there was also one on the other end for Predators as well that seemed to be close and around the area, but again, the Predators players didn't appeal much. So maybe none of them were penalties, but close decisions again. So 3 points for Predators as they get back on track, and Awesome will look to bounce back in their next game. So those were the fixtures from match week 5. We're gonna run through the table and then predict next weekend's games. So after 5 weeks, System 3 are atop of the table on 13 points with a plus 18 goal difference. Layou jump to second, 2 points behind System 3. In third are defending champions, the Leeward Predators, with 10 points, tied with Jebelle as well, who also have 10 points. BESCO dropped from second all the way down to fifth, but they are still on a solid 9 points thus far, very respectable. Awesome are right below them on 6 points. Hope below them on 4 points. And then we ring up the bottom of the table with Bequia, Avenues United on 2 points, and Chelsea getting their first point of the season this week. So looking ahead to match week 6 fixtures and quick preview of these games. On Friday, we'll see Camdonia Chelsea take on Jebelle FC. This feels like a mismatch. On form, Jebelle are disciplined, confident, and scoring at key moments, while Camdonia are still searching for their first win. Can Camdonia finally break their drought, or does Jebelle smother Chelsea on Friday?
Yeah, I can't see it happening. Of course, I think it would be a straightforward win for Jebelle. Maybe a 2-0 victory. They look sure, they look secured and sure-footed. We know what we are gonna get with them. While Camdonia have been looking better, I think it would be a bit of a struggle for Jebelle to like really break them down and like pick them apart. So I don't think it would be a drubbing. So as I said, 2-0. And Camdonia still haven't showed us anything in terms of getting a goal yet. Another goal from a set piece. So still waiting for that goal from open play. So yeah, up 2-0.
Yes, and just to capitalize on that point, the fact that they haven't scored a goal from open play thus far this season, if my memory serves me correctly, it would be very difficult to see them doing that against this disciplined Jebelle unit. So I'd go as far as to say that this will be a comfortable Jebelle victory. I'll go 3-0. Second game on Friday sees Awesome FC take on Hope International. Two teams desperate for a response following losses over the weekend. Awesome have been solid defensively but lacking some cutting edge, while Hope continue to struggle for confidence. So the question is, who blinks first and who takes the points, if any are to be taken by one team?
I going with Awesome with this one. For the facts that I stated earlier, Hope struggle with crosses. We know you're gonna get some crosses from Chadstro.
True.
And the keepers, for the most part, if you are to really pick out an outstanding keeper for the tournament, maybe not Leeward Predators, but for the most part, this has been poor. We have been seeing corners flying in the net,
True.
free kicks flying
True.
in the net, left, right, and center. Some of them seem to be very undersized as well. But yeah, for the most part, I feel like Hope struggle with crosses. Chadstro is relentless, and especially if you give him space, and if Hope would, if Hope would are trying or would try to, impose themselves on the game and leave space in behind, I could see the Awesome attack taking advantage of that.
Well, this is gonna be a tough one because, like we mentioned, both teams coming off our loss. Hope coming off of 3 losses back to back to back. So it would certainly be something if they were to lose 4 games in a row, and that's why I see this one going in their favor. I see them turning it around and just edging out Awesome 2 goals to 1. If you want some logic or reasoning behind it, I'd say that they have as much firepower, I'd say, on paper at least, in attack as Awesome do. And they are due for a response. I don't see, all of, Coach Farrell's and company's hard work going into 4 consecutive losses. That would certainly be a surprise to me at least. So I'll just on that. And like we mentioned, Awesome, even though their attack has been flourishing so far this season, numbers wise. They looked very blunt yesterday against the Predators. Maybe hope will just be the tonic they need to catch back farm, but I see hope taking a close one here, 2-1. We move on to Sunday's game and we'll begin with another relegation 6-pointer where we'll see Bequia United take on Avenues United. Both sides need points badly and neither can really afford a loss here. So the question is, which team shows more composure here under pressure and gets 3 points?
Bequia. Physicality, experience, and of course, Avenues would have the most experienced player on the field. But I feel in terms of the total, I feel like Bequia has a more experienced squad, but more quality as well. And I feel like that would be enough to get a few goals. The likes of Snag, Mark Brown, we've been saying it time and time again. They haven't been showing us in recent weeks, but this is the opportunity to really take advantage and get the first win of the season.
So, scoreline?
I'll just say 2-0. 2-0 to Bequia.
2-0 to Bequia. I can also see Bequia coming out victorious here because, like you mentioned, they are the more physical team. On the day, if I were to just assume and bet my dollar, who would be more hungry for a victory on the day, I would assume that Bequia would fight harder, really and truly, for every loose ball and every broken possession. I could see Bequia winning all the loose balls and everything. So Avenues haven't shown us much so far. We've seen Captain Francis in midfield being left frustrated, by what's going on around him, and understandably so. Right, the lack of quality is really shocking in the attack. And even though Bequia have been disjointed, they do have players in attack who are capable of doing some damage, as we've seen so far in the tournament. So the likes of Mark Brown and Snag, as we mentioned, would look at this game as something for them to look forward to. And I also see a comfortable 2-0 victory for Bequia on Sunday. Moving over to BESCO Partials versus North Leeward, which will be the second game on Sunday. This is a real test. BESCO need to respond after being humbled, while Predators are quietly building momentum. So the question is, can BESCO's defense handle DL Spring and Co. in transition?
I am expecting them to respond, tighten it up a little bit, go back to the basics. Yeah, they lost 3-0 in the last game, or 4-1.
Because, yeah, 4-1 against Layou.
4-1. And of course, we know the quality that Layou possess, but I don't think that not Leeward possess that same firepower and quality in terms of the attacking and just holistically. I don't think they possess that same firepower and quality. And I feel like BESCO would do a good job to stay organized and frustrate them. And I could see this game fizzling out to a stalemate, 1-1 draw the most.
Draw. Okay. I could see it. I could also see a draw, but I feel like the game that we're gonna talk about next, right, we'll see not Leeward Predators push even harder for a win. They've now won back-to-back games. EL Spring has continued to look like, alongside Solomon, one of the best players in the league. So I see no reason why they can't continue their momentum. BESCO's wins have come off of being solid defensively and keeping clean sheets, low-scoring games. I see Partials and their style, their emphatic running style being too much for BESCO, and I could see a 3-1 victory for the defending champions Predators on Sunday. And we move on to the game of the season. Thus far, been teasing it, and it is here. All right, so on Sunday night at Independence Park, we're gonna see System 3 take on Layou FC in first versus second. Right, top scorers versus one of the most balanced teams in the league. Azino Solomon versus Layou's midfield engine and pace out wide. So the question is here: does Layou have what it takes to go toe to toe with System 3, or are they put to the slaughter just like every other team that has faced System 3 thus far, except for Jebelle.
I think they can. As I previously said, they arguably, alongside System 3, have the best squad in the competition. Right? Back to front, Layou, structured, well organized, could get goals, could get link up, and yeah, solid defense. System 3 has shown us that they can lead goals and they can be caught on the counter, especially in that game the weekend before when they played, was it Chelsea, I think, where they were a bit disjointed, not linking up as
System 3, yeah, Chelsea.
right, not linking up as they were accustomed to, and had they played a better team, could have been punished. So I can see this game being a tactical affair and both teams converting and could be a 2-all draw.
2-all drop. Certainly sitting on the fence there, but I could also see that result playing out as well. There's definitely will be goals in the game from both teams. Like we mentioned, is a game of the season. You know, both teams will understand the significance of a loss here, and I think while I did say there might be goals, you know, as a result of the game being so tense and both teams knowing the importance of it, both teams might not necessarily go full blow and, you know, head to head and basically have a basketball game. So it depends on the approach from both teams. But I want to go for the upset. It's very difficult to bet against System 3, right? So I'll go for a close System 3 victory, 2-1. And that wraps up the predictions for match week 6. Just to go through the Golden Boot watch, there's not much of a watch at the moment, as you know, Solomon is running away with the Golden Boot in the 2026 VSPL with 13 goals from 5 games. In second place, DL Spring has a respectable in any other season. 5 goals from 5 games would be, you know, one of the talking points of the season, but unfortunately, as you know, has twice times that, almost 3 times, right? Kobe Mingno and Java Oden, who scored his first goal in a few weeks, have 4, and Garrett Ledgerwood, Carlos Solomon, Chad Strady, Nelson Lewis, who scored again this week, Corey Durant, Baba, and Kareem Williams all have 3. So we move on to the match week 5 awards, and no surprises or prizes for guessing who is the player of the week this week. Mr. Azino Solomon, 5 goals, 13 goals in 5 games. Like we mentioned, he has more goals than any other team in the Premier Division as well. In sensational form, making the league look all too easy for him. As we mentioned, maybe this level is certainly too easy for him, and I don't think it's a disrespect to the other teams or players involved by saying that. He's clearly a level above. So, as you know, Solomon is Game Week 5's Player of the Week. I want to give a bonus player of the week, however, to Mr. Shamron Phillips, also of System 3, who came off the bench and recorded 3 assists in just under half hour. So certainly showing the depth of quality in the squad of System 3 there, Mr. Shamron Phillips. Team of the week, however, would be Jebelle FC, who have now won 3 consecutive games with 3 consecutive clean sheets and are fully back into the title race. So those are our match week 5 awards. And before we close out today's episode, we just wanted to touch on some things as we tend to do here on Global Sports from a Caribbean perspective. Any little thing or thing that is off in the Vinci Soccer Premier League, as we try to take in each and every single game of every week so that we can speak about them. So while watching one of the games yesterday, wasn't able to be there in person, so we had to take advantage of the live stream, and we are very grateful for the live stream, because without it, we wouldn't be able to see what is taking place other than just seeing results. So, not to be ungrateful or anything for the cameras and the great work that VC3 and the Vinci Soccer Premier League as a whole have been doing. But yesterday, when we were viewing one of those games, and rain was coming, the the footage that was being shown on the live was not visible. And that's just me putting it as kindly as I can. Right? The footage that was being displayed on the screen and on the live stream was not visible if you're trying to watch the football, basically. Right? So what was being displayed is, when rain comes, as you have a camera, the lens would get, wet, obviously. So the image was very, very bad. So certainly things should have been put in place so that in the event that rain comes, we wouldn't have such bad imagery. They even so went as to put up a graphic over the screen while the game was played, and then take a cloth and then wipe off the lens. And that was done on multiple occasions. And like we like to say, it may seem like we're nitpicking and we're just fine, magnifying the glass and little details, but these are the things that matter. And the broadcast is very important because it's being not shown not only in St. Vincent but throughout the entire world. And also with the zoom and the panning. The cameraman for the second game, I think it was, so he certainly seemed like it was his first time. The zoom was too close in at times and it was too far back out at times. It was too far left sometimes, it was too far right sometimes. So those are just some of the little things that we have to tighten up on if we're trying to move towards a semi-professional type standard of a league. Aside from that, well, Nappy?
Yeah, I just saying, over the past week we've been watching sports, and I can't understand how secondary schools can afford a couple angles, but yet I have to view from from one angle. I'm not saying I need 20, but several, maybe two, three the most, if you could pull it off, would go a long way for the viewing experience on the live stream, especially when the penalty shouts on one end, far from the camera. It just makes a better viewing experience, and it just puts out a better package of the VSPL on a whole. So yeah, I just feel like it's just these little things that we could work on. Can't see how schools could get two camera, and the Premier Football can't afford two camera. That's something we could work on. We could do better on that. That's all. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, like with the penalty stuff, it's not a case where we don't have VAR in Vinci, so it's not a case where the referees are gonna go and look at multiple different angles to make a decision. But in the for stuff like this, for discussion purposes and for reviewing purposes, you only have one angle that you could check. So even when we review a contentious penalty decision, it's still not clear because, like you mentioned, the camera is over here and the incident took place all the way over there. So we don't even know if the incident took place in the box or not. So those little things would help us. Just a second camera angle alone would improve the quality of the stream
Go along.
and the coverage. Also, the commentary leaves a lot to be desired.
Big up yourself, Rox.
Big up yourself, Roxel, and big up yourself, Charlo. But the commentary leaves a lot to be desired at times. Let's be totally honest. Let's be totally honest. A lot of straight talking, away from the actual football and the field. And I know it's not an easy job, but you have to be mindful of the listening public and some of the things that you guys speak about. Nothing out of the way or rude, but just totally unrelated to football. Not what we're tuning into here, basically. Right? So we appreciate the job that you guys are doing. Great job, very consistent. You guys are there every game. So it's a credit to you guys. And long may the good work continue. But just be mindful of the conversations that are straying outside of the game itself. That's all. Right? So that was our match week 5 breakdown of the Vinci Soccer Premier League. Dominance at the top, desperation at the bottom, and a heavyweight clash coming up that could certainly shape the title race. As always, like, share, subscribe. Thank you for rocking with us. We're Global Sports from Caribbean perspective, where passion meets purpose. I was your host today, Shabba, and
Dubs.
we're signing out.
Global.